Most people spend decades working and saving for retirement, but few actually prepare for what comes next, emotionally, mentally, or even in conversations with their own family. And that can make retirement feel more uncertain than it needs to be. Retirement isn't just about money. It's about identity, purpose, relationships, especially when it comes to passing on wealth to the next generation. At Pace's Ferry Wealth Advisors, we've worked with families from a variety of backgrounds. And while no two retirements look the same, we've noticed some common themes that show up again and again, and things that really catch people off guard. In this video, we're going to cover 4 of them. The first thing to prepare yourself for is really a change in identity. People work their whole lives in a certain industry, in a certain role, and they often identify as that person. When they retire, it can sometimes be a bit disorienting. It's important to prepare yourself for that change and consider how you're going to ask the question, what do you do for a living? If you don't always want to talk about who you were, you want to be prepared with a response that changes the direction of the conversation, because just saying you are retired isn't who you are. You're a professional grandfather, an amateur golfer, you're a wood craftsman, or you could just say that you left corporate America to do photography. The other important thing to consider and plan for is, are you going to have a hobby? Many people in their 70s and 80s have reported regretting not having a hobby in retirement. They regret not having something else to do rather than just sit around and watch TV. What will you spend your days doing? We've helped a lot of people plan for their retirement at Pace's Ferry Wealth, and none of them are doing the same thing in retirement. We have one client that owns a commercial flight simulator, and he'll end a meeting with us saying he has to go back home and bring the plane back from Hong Kong. We've got another client that spent the last few years building a boat, another client that really enjoys bird watching and photography, and another one that has been an advisor to 5 different entrepreneurial startup companies. You just have to find what's going to make you happy and give it a shot. And if it's not working out for you, try something else. The next thing that you want to prepare yourself for and not underestimate is ignoring longevity risk. When we sit down with people for retirement planning, many people think they're going to live to 80, maybe 85. And this is people that are retiring at age 65. But statistics paint a very different picture. Underestimating life expectancy can potentially lead to overspending or just uncertainty as the years pass you by. But what if you live 30 more years after you're retired? Are you ready for that? Based on the Social Security Administration life expectancy calculator, 1 in 4 65-year-olds today will live past 90. So if we run the math on that, that means a couple has a 50% chance of one of them living till 90. So let's look at some other stats from the Society of Actuaries Longevity Illustrator, which coincides with the Social Security Administration's estimates. For a 65-year-old non-smoking couple in average health, there's a 50% chance one spouse lives to at least 90, a 25% chance that one spouse lives to at least 94, and a 10% chance that one lives until 98 or beyond. The next point that I want to make that is probably counterintuitive to the last is that many times people work their whole lives always focusing on savings, and then they get to that last paycheck, and when that last paycheck stops, they freeze up. They don't want to travel, they don't want to eat out, they don't want to spend money on anything because they have a fear that they're going to run out of money. This is where proper financial planning can be important to understand what they can reasonably spend in retirement to live life to the fullest. It's like climbing Everest. On the way up, everybody's excited and pumped up because this is what they've trained for. This is what they've trained for a long time, and they finally get to the top. But once they reach the summit, reality sets in, and now they run the risk of going too slow on the way back down and not making it back. Or in retirement terms, this would be not spending enough and enjoying retirement because they don't want to run out of money, or going too fast and risk falling on the way down. That's why having a clear financial plan matters so much. It helps take the guesswork out of what you can spend so you're not stuck in that place of uncertainty, afraid to enjoy retirement you've worked so hard for. Yes, of course it's important to be cautious, but it's also important to live. Retirement isn't just about preserving assets, it's about using them intentionally. A good plan helps you find that balance between peace of mind and quality of life. Because it's not just about making it to retirement, it's about making the most of it once you're there. Now, the last point that I want to make, it might be a bit controversial and might sting a bit because it's about your kids, is giving too much money to your kids. Now, I'm not going to say don't give to your kids. A lot of families find real joy and purpose in helping the next generation, but it's important to make sure that that generosity is sustainable. If you give too much too early without the right structure, there's a risk, not just of running out of money yourself, but of unintentionally creating a lifestyle for your kids that they might not be able to maintain on their own. And here's the other side of that coin. If your finances take a hit later in retirement and that support goes away, it could put both you and your kids in a tough position. They might not be in a place to help, or you might feel like you're relying on them in ways that you didn't expect. That's why it's important to balance generosity with long-term planning for your sake and for theirs. So I'm not going to just present this problem without giving you some solutions. So I've got a couple different solutions that's worked for folks that we've worked with. And the first one is you don't have to give each child the same amount every year. If wealth transfer is something that's really important to you and helping your kids out, well, they might not need it at the same time. And it's very possible that the impact of your gift might be felt more at a time that they actually need it. So if you give them $20,000 at the same time you gave another child who needed $20,000, maybe they're just going to waste it or it's going to sit in a checking account. But if you wait until they're putting a renovation on the house and they're talking to you about how they really want to do this, but it's too expensive, you can say, hey, let me make up the difference, right? But that gift is going to be more meaningful at that time because you're giving it at a time where it can make more impact. With this strategy, you can even keep track of the gifts that you make every year and give it to your estate attorney at the end of the year so they can update your estate documents and also equalize the inheritance to your kids. So you don't have to feel like one child might be getting more than another because eventually at the end of your life, everything will equalize. Now, another possible solution is actually inviting your kids to join a financial plan review. That way, they get a clearer picture of your goals, your budget, and what's realistic over the long term. Maybe you originally hoped to give them $20,000 a year to each child, but after running the numbers with your advisor, it made more sense to scale that back to $10,000. When they see that in context of a bigger plan, retirement income, healthcare, legacy planning, it becomes a lot easier for them to understand why there might be limits and they're less likely to come asking you for $50,000 out of the blue. There are other solutions that we've helped clients with, but it's more important that you find out what's appropriate for you and your family situation. I hope this video has been helpful for you, and if you'd like to learn if Paces Ferry Wealth Advisors would be a good fit for you and your family, please check out the link in the video description. Thanks for watching.